Welcome, everyone. If you're joining us right now, you're stepping into a brand new deep dive.
Yeah, and this one is, it's pretty exciting.
It really is. Today, we're zeroing in on a very specific, highly immersive corner of the entertainment world.
Ooh.
We've got our hands on a freshly released document from March 2026. It's an official press release from a Houston, Texas-based company called AniMedia Entertainment.
Right.
And the mission for our deep dive today is straightforward, but the implications are massive. We're going to explore their highly anticipated 2026 to 2027 production slate.
Which is huge.
Yeah. We're looking at exactly how this rising force is redefining character-driven storytelling for a global audience.
And, for anyone who might be new to this medium, we should probably establish what we mean by an anime audio drama.
Good point.
We're talking about immersive, premium, character-driven audio CDs and digital releases. You don't have visuals, so all the heavy lifting, the world building, the emotion, the action. It all relies entirely on voice acting and incredibly detailed sound design.
Okay, let's unpack this. Starting with a series that literally puts you, the listener, right into the center of the narrative architecture.
Oh, this one is fascinating.
Right. We're looking at a returning English-only release called Share Love, which is heading into its second and third seasons.
And this leans heavily into a first-person romance angle.
Exactly. You aren't just observing a protagonist, you are the heroine.
You're placed right in the middle of a share house, living with 4 distinct male companions.
And the press release is very specific about who you're sharing that space with.
Right, it lists them out.
Yeah, we have Rei Takasaki, Yuichiro Fujino, Kazuyuki Shiba, and Yoshito Hachisuka.
Which is a brilliant use of the audio format. When you strip away the visual element, the barrier between the audience and the narrative naturally thins out. By writing the script in the second person, the sound design effectively places you in the physical space of that share house.
And we're moving past the breakout first season now, so the stakes are getting incredibly specific.
They really are.
Season 2 revolves entirely around a former resident's wedding invitation. But here's the hook. You can only bring one of those companions as your date.
It's so clever.
The tagline they're using for the season is literally, "Who will you choose?"
And that tagline isn't just marketing copy. It represents a structural shift in how the story is consumed.
Oh, so?
Well, it forces a definitive, isolating choice within an environment that's entirely defined by shared living and balanced group dynamics.
Oh, right.
You have these 4 distinct individuals, and the moment you pick one for this event, it inherently alters your relationship with the other 3. It weaponizes the listener's own empathy.
I have to wonder, though, does that actually work in practice? Forcing the listener into a canonical choice in an ongoing audio series seems like a massive risk.
It is.
You're essentially telling a portion of your audience that their preferred dynamic is taking a back seat.
It is risk, but it's a calculated one that drives intense engagement. It creates genuine anxiety.
Yeah, I can see that.
And then, looking at their plans for Season 3, AniMedia immediately introduces an external variable to capitalize on that newly fractured dynamic.
Right, they bring in Tomomi.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Season 3 introduces Tomomi, who is described simply as a childhood friend.
But the press release notes that Tomomi's presence threatens the very existence of the shared living arrangement.
Exactly. So structurally, you transition from the internal, self-inflicted tension of choosing a wedding date in Season 2.
To a completely external threat.
Right. A threat that could dismantle the entire living situation in Season 3. It's a textbook escalation of romantic and interpersonal stakes, perfectly paced across 2 distinct production cycles.
It's a clever way to keep the ecosystem of that one house from getting stale.
Very much so.
But Share Love isn't the only interactive style romance they're pushing. This is where we pivot to what the press release actually brands as a meta-romance phenomenon.
Yes. Mr. Song.
We're talking about Mr. Song, Keep Calm, which is getting its second and third seasons in both English and Japanese.
And this series leans heavily into isekai-style mechanics, but applies them to a modern setting.
The premise here is incredibly layered. We have a protagonist, Shibaba, who is literally trapped inside a fictional novel titled The Lovely Wife of the CEO.
And she teams up with this completely unpredictable character, Kian-song.
But the mechanic that drives the whole thing is that she has to follow specific narrative tasks.
Right.
If she fails or refuses to follow these tasks, she faces a massive penalty. She risks a total restart of the entire story from the very beginning.
What's fascinating here is the introduction of systemic algorithmic forces. into what is ostensibly a romantic comedy setting.
Yeah, it's a weird mix, but it works.
Season 2 delves specifically into the AI-driven story system that actually governs Shibaba's fate. It's not just a magical curse keeping her there. It's a governed, almost bureaucratic narrative system she's forced to navigate.
It takes the literary concept of plot armor or narrative destiny and turns it into a literal oppressive force. It sounds almost exhausting in a narrative sense. You're trying to forge a genuine connection with Keensong, but you're constantly fighting the literal programming of the universe you're standing in.
But that friction is exactly why it works. It's a brilliant commentary on genre tropes. You're surviving the structure of the story you're trapped inside.
Which flawlessly sets up Season 3. The document states that Shibaba attempts to challenge the very rules of the world she's trapped in.
Yes.
So she goes from just playing along to avoid the reset penalty to actively trying to break the system itself.
Which perfectly tracks with the necessary evolution of a protagonist in a meta-narrative. First, you survive the rules. Then, you learn to exploit the rules.
And finally, you attempt to break them entirely.
The fact that AniMedia is expanding this property's global fan base with a dual-language production shows that this kind of sharp, self-aware dialogue and structural subversion is resonating across different cultural markets.
It really highlights how complex the writing in these audio dramas has become. You aren't just writing dialogue, you're writing rules for a universe and then writing characters who figure out how to break them.
It's highly sophisticated.
Now let's shift focus, because this 2026 to 2027 slate is deliberately diverse. AniMedia is also bringing some serious tonal whiplash.
They really are.
Let's look at Heaven is Forbidden. This is a brand new Season 1 launch, again rolling out simultaneously in both English and Japanese versions.
The release describes it as a sweeping celestial romance.
The narrative scale here shifts dramatically compared to the claustrophobia of a share house or a trapped novel. We're looking at a grander mythological scope.
The story centers on Raphael, an angel whose eternal task is to watch over humanity.
However, he falls in love with a mortal woman named Nami.
Which sets up the classic, catastrophic collision of worlds. As his devotion to Nami deepens, he has to actually confront the consequences of defying heaven itself.
But launching a sweeping, high-concept romance like this simultaneously in English and Japanese as a Season 1, that's a massive upfront investment for an untested property, isn't it?
It absolutely is, and it signals immense confidence from AniMedia.
Because of the themes.
Well, the core thematic question, is it love or is it duty, is universally understood, which helps its cross-cultural appeal.
Right.
But placing this specifically in an immersive audio medium is a fascinating choice. Think about the auditory contrast required here.
Oh, the sound design.
Yes. You have to sonically establish the ethereal, overwhelming presence of the celestial realms, and then sharply contrast that with the grounded, tactile, mortal world of Nami.
The sound design alone has to do the heavy lifting of showing why an angel would risk everything for a human life.
It requires a completely different directorial approach than a contemporary comedy.
And the simultaneous bilingual launch really highlights their commitment to global distribution. They aren't waiting to see if it's a hit in one region before porting it to another.
No, they're going all in.
But if you think a celestial rebellion sounds intense, here's where it gets really interesting. We're moving from mythological romance to a gritty, blood-soaked action drama called Death by Barmaid.
Even just from a marketing perspective, that title establishes a very specific, visceral tone immediately.
It paints a picture before you even hit play. The press release details Seasons 1 and 2 for this series, again rolling out in English and Japanese.
The story follows a character named Saya.
She was once a legendary assassin known as the Bone Blade of the Kakuzan clan.
But she's left that life behind, and now she just wants a quiet, unassuming existence working as a barmaid.
The retired professional pulled brutally back into the life is a beloved, enduring trope.
It is. But the execution detailed here seems deeply character-driven rather than purely action-oriented.
Yeah, her former agency tracks her down and drags her back for one final mission.
But a single job spirals into something much larger. The truth behind the historical massacre of her clan begins to surface, and she uncovers a massive conspiracy designed to eliminate her permanently.
The legendary Bone Blade just wants to wipe down tables and serve drinks, but now she's unraveling a deadly conspiracy.
It's a great setup.
What really caught my eye here, though, isn't just the plot. It's the aggressive release strategy AniMedia is deploying.
Yes, the logistical approach to Death by Barmaid is highly unusual and incredibly aggressive.
The press release explicitly states that Season 1 is launching right alongside the active production of Season 2.
Which is wild.
Let me play devil's advocate here for a second. Isn't greenlighting and actively producing a second season before the audience has even heard the first episode of Season 1 a massive financial gamble?
It's huge.
If the show doesn't land, you're sitting on a very expensive, fully produced second season of an action drama.
It's a tremendous financial gamble, but it's a calculated response to modern consumption habits.
How so?
The traditional audio drama model often suffers from momentum loss. You release a great first season, but then the audience has to wait 18 months to 2 years for the follow-up.
Right, and by the time it arrives, they've moved on.
It's exactly. By committing to Season 2's production while Season 1 is just launching, AniMedia is guaranteeing an uninterrupted full-throttle blend of tavern drama and assassin intrigue. They are actively mitigating listener churn.
It's essentially treating the audio format with the same binge model economics we see in streaming television.
Yes, exactly.
You don't have to wait years to find out what happens to Saya and the Kakuzen clan conspiracy. You know the payoff is already coming.
It tells the listener, your investment of time in this universe is safe. We're already building the next chapter.
It requires immense trust in the material.
And clearly they believe the gritty, emotional action of the Bone Blade is going to hook listeners immediately.
I can definitely see the appeal. It's a brilliant way to build brand loyalty, but as much as they're innovating with new release strategies and meta-romances, we cannot look at AniMedia's slate without digging into the absolute heavy hitter of their catalog.
Oh, absolutely.
I'm talking about the cornerstone of their fantasy lineup, Legend of Glaive, which is entering its highly anticipated Season 3.
Producing epic fantasy in an audio-only format is perhaps the most demanding undertaking in the medium.
It has to be.
You have to convey massive scale, intricate geopolitical world building, and dynamic, multi-character combat purely through Foley work, sound design, and voice acting.
Otherwise, an audio fantasy battle just sounds like chaotic noise.
Exactly.
And according to the release, they are pulling out all the stops to ensure that doesn't happen for Season 3.
They're promising larger battles, far deeper lore, and emotionally charged character arcs that build on everything that came before.
The specific narrative for this season follows Shion and Yuna as they accept a perilous new mission from a merchant named Lionel Talbolt.
And the immediate objective of this mission is incredibly high stakes and personal. They are tasked with rescuing Lionel Talbolt's kidnapped daughter.
And the primary antagonist standing in their way is described as utterly ruthless, the Jotunheim chief Jack Human of Magnamius.
Jack Human of Magnamius. Just the nomenclature alone tells you we're deep into high fantasy territory.
So, you have Shion and Yuna navigating this very immediate violent rescue mission against a Jotunheim chief, but the press release makes sure to note that the overarching grander quest hasn't been forgotten.
Right. Shion is still actively pursuing the mythical artifact known as the glaive.
This is a perfect example of dual-layered storytelling, which is essential for sustaining a multi-season epic fantasy.
It really is. The micro-narrative, the immediate episode-to-episode hook, is the rescue mission involving Lionel Talbolt's daughter and the conflict in Magnamius.
It gives the characters immediate goals and tangible enemies.
But the macro-narrative, the long-term reason the listener is invested into Season 3, is the pursuit of the glaive and the ongoing search for the soaring dragonsmith.
It balances the immediate gratification of a contained quest with the slow burn of a massive, sprawling mythology.
Precisely. It propels the story into its next grand chapter, keeping the hardcore, long-term fans invested in the expanding lore while providing a compelling, easily understood, immediate conflict that grounds the action.
It's a massive undertaking.
It is.
So, looking at the entire board, we've gone through the intimate, first-person tension of interactive share houses. We've looked at self-aware meta-comedies fighting AI systems. We've discussed sweeping celestial romances, gritty retired assassins uncovering massive conspiracies, and the dual-layered storytelling of an epic fantasy quest.
It's quite the list.
So, what does this all mean? If you're listening to this deep dive right now, whether you're a longtime fan of the medium or just observing the entertainment industry, why should you care about this specific production slate from AniMedia Entertainment?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this press release is far more than just a promotional list of shows. We have a very clear, very aggressive blueprint for AniMedia's 2026 to 2027 global strategy.
Right.
What we are witnessing is an intentional, heavily funded acceleration of international distribution. They aren't localizing as an afterthought. They are deliberately servicing the North American, European, and Asian markets simultaneously.
They're taking highly specific genres from isekai to high fantasy and launching them in both English and Japanese at the exact same time.
Yes.
The logistical coordination required to cast, record, mix, and master dual language productions on this scale across this many distinct auditory worlds is staggering.
It is a massive undertaking. And to truly understand the corporate philosophy driving this push, we only need to look at the direct statement provided in the release.
Oh, from the CEO.
Yes. Hugh Rivers, the CEO of GME Entertainment, which is the parent company of AniMedia Entertainment, stated, "Our 2026-2027 slate reflects our commitment to premium storytelling across romance, fantasy, action, and genre-blending narratives. We are building a home for anime audio drama fans worldwide."
We are building a home for anime audio drama fans worldwide. That really synthesizes their entire approach.
It does.
It proves that within the broader entertainment landscape, this audio format has completely shed its niche status. It's no longer just a piece of tie-in merchandise you buy as a collector's item after watching a show or reading a manga. It's becoming a globally synchronized premium entertainment medium in its own right.
Historically, if an audio drama was localized at all, it happened years after its original domestic release. Fans were left waiting, navigating disjointed release schedules.
Yeah, the lag was terrible.
By synchronizing the production and release of English and Japanese versions across such a wildly diverse array of genres, AniMedia is demanding that the medium be taken seriously on a global premium scale.
They are formally acknowledging that a fan sitting in North America or Europe is just as eager for complex, character-driven audio as a fan in Asia.
And they're willing to invest the capital to deliver it to them seamlessly.
It's a total paradigm shift for the industry. To wrap things up today, we've seen a sheer variety on this slate that is honestly staggering.
Definitely.
You have the manufactured, isolating anxiety of choosing a single wedding date and share love. You have the weaponized plot armor and AI-driven meta-narrative of Mr. Song, Keep Calm. There's the grand, heavenly rule-breaking of Raphael and Heaven is Forbidden. We've got the bloody, binge-ready conspiracies of the Bone Blade and Death by Barmaid, and the classic, dual-layered, epic questing of Shion in Legend of Glaive.
It's an incredible lineup.
It really is a perfect, fascinating snapshot of how quickly and dynamically this audio medium is evolving.
It certainly is. And when you examine the underlying mechanics of these specific stories together, particularly the interactive and systemic elements we discussed, this raises an important question.
I'm listening.
If we build on the interactive mechanics we see in Share Love, where the listener is directly forced to make a choice that alters their standing with the cast, and we combine that with the concept of the AI-driven narrative world we see governing the protagonist in Mr. Song.
Oh, wow.
What happens to the future storytelling when the boundary between the listener and the protagonist disappears completely?
That's a huge thought.
If premium audio dramas are already asking you to make emotional choices within a set narrative, how long is it until these highly produced, immersive audio experiences stop merely telling you a pre-recorded story and actually start reacting to your real-time decisions?
That is an incredible thought to leave off on and something to really mull over as the technology and storytelling in this medium continue to collide. Thank you all so much for joining us on this deep dive into AniMedia's latest slate. We hope you gained some new insights today, and we look forward to having you with us next time as we keep exploring the stories, the strategies, and the mechanics shaping our world. Take care, everyone.